There's a brand new Korean thriller now in cinemas. It's called Hijack 1971, and it tells the story, the real life story, of the hijack attempt of a Korean Air F-27 airliner in 1971, where an individual attempted to commandeer the plane and fly it into North Korea. This was following a successful hijack attempt in 1969, in which that actually happened. Passengers were held captive. Most of them were released, but 11 of them still remain in North Korea as prisoners of the North Korean government. This one stars Ha Jung-woo as Tae-in, who is the first officer of the airliner. He is essentially our no-nonsense, super righteous protagonist. He's the one that kind of anchors the show. And then Yo Jin-gu plays the civilian hijacker, the South Korean who wants to hijack this airplane and take it into North Korea for reasons. I think this is a pretty competent movie in that I was at the edge of my seat at certain periods of time. I found it thrilling. I found it engaging. Like all Korean shows, it trips into melodrama a little too much from time to time, but I feel like that's just part of the genre. And for the most part, I had a good time at the cinema. It was very basic, it was a bit paint by numbers, but for me, the thing that made Hijack 1971 stand out was the social commentary that happens in the movie, which I think is something that isn't often spoken about with regards to the South and the North conflict. And I thought that was very interesting. There's very little of it, but what little there was, I found to be quite impactful.
I guess it's interesting from a storytelling point of view, right? Because we are always, by we, I mean the rest of the world, are always told that North Korea bad, South Korea good. But we never see the moment of the breaking of the two countries and what that meant for the people on the ground. And I think this movie did a little bit of that, or tried to address that a little bit. However, my issues with the movie are that it is too melodramatic. I found it too melodramatic. It just annoyed the hell out of me.
Interestingly enough, it's not as melodramatic as K-drama, right? So for me, this is an acceptable level.
It feels like they can do these stories, right? Like they can do them without the melodrama. And then suddenly it's as if they go, oh, we've gone halfway through the movie and we haven't done a stupid K-drama, melodrama thing yet. So let's do that.
Do we just call that their signature now? Like if they didn't do it, would it even be a Korean movie?
Yeah, they would. Because then it would be Parasite, which was fantastic.
Sure, but...
Or Old Boy, which was also fantastic.
Sure, but I think there's a certain expectation when you go into a Bollywood movie as well.
Sure, completely agree.
And I think if you took that away from RRR, for example, yes, people bursting out into song does bring any movie to a screeching halt. But given that it is a signature style of that area of filmmaking, is it just something that we should come to expect from these sorts of movies?
And I agree with you. I think I expect these melodramas, which is why I don't like Korean movies, because of the melodrama. And this is a personal situation, right? I'm not saying melodrama storytelling is bad. I'm just saying that it doesn't work for me. So my issues with it in Hijack 1971 is that they didn't do it throughout. So I got lulled into this false sense of not melodrama and then suddenly melodrama. And I recoiled.
Right.
But I do agree with you. I think it is very competently made. I think a lot of the action sequences were pretty well done. I thought a lot of the storytelling was very well done. There were no real stupid hero plot holes type things happening here, which was fantastic. It was also really interesting to see a subsect of a culture at a time that we know very little about. South Korea in 1971, what the class warfare was like, what the character situations were like. And I found that really interesting. I found that really exciting.
I'm a huge fan of hijacking movies. I don't know why.
That's a really weird thing to be a fan of.
Yeah, especially airplane hijacking. Because growing up in the 80s, there were a lot of these movies, whether in cinema or TV movies. out of
Yeah.
Hollywood. There were a lot of
Yeah.
hijacking movies out of Hollywood. And I think even as a younger person, even in my teens, having watched these sorts of movies, it had me excited and had me in the library looking up people like DB Cooper and stuff because
Mm.
there was a certain romance to it, I suppose. And we don't get many hijacking movies anymore. And so this was quite fun in that sense, and also sent me down a rabbit hole to look up what actually happened and how many hijackings there were between the South and the North. We won't give away what actually happened because I think it's a major plot point. I know it's historical, but given that this is a part of history that very few people know about, I think go and enjoy the movie for yourself and then Google it.
Yeah.
Because, yes, there's a very interesting story here. I'm still not sure how much of it is real and how much of it is fiction as displayed in Hijack 1971, but it did send me down a little rabbit hole. So for me, pulling off the Hijack movie is always very, very interesting because I think, given the locked room scenario that they're in, I'm always amazed to see how writers and directors make it exciting, given the limited spaces they're allowed to work with, and also how they work in that claustrophobia and all of that other stuff, which is why I love the Apple TV series Hijack with Idris Elba. I'm so happy there's a season 2. Yeah, I think these scenarios force you to be creative in interesting ways. So apart from the romance of it all, I think there is also something to be said about the creativity involved in pulling off a story like this and making it interesting and exciting.
I think the airplane lock room situation is probably the hardest one to do, right? Because unlike something like Knock at the Cabin and the Jodie Foster one, what's that called? Panic Room.
Panic room.
There's a certain level of space you can provide.
Yes, you can always leave the panic room or run out of the cabin into the jungle. Here, there's
You've
nowhere,
got nowhere
to
to go. Yeah. Not even that. It's this thing of like, yes, you can fire a gun, but a gun fired in an airplane means something complete. Like a bullet missing a person is also bad on a plane because that bullet could hit a window and everybody gets fucked. So the stakes are significantly higher. The rules of that panic room, the rules of that locked room storytelling thing is different, and that makes it exciting.
Yeah.
I do not like I do not like plane hijack movies only because it just makes me nervous.
It freaks you out?
It freaks me the fuck out.
Like it's supposed to, motherfucker. Like it's supposed
No, I
to.
don't like it. Like, yeah, I don't like it. But no, but you're right. I think it's I love reading about them. I love reading the stories, but like as a film, like it just gets to me too much.
But when it comes to Hijack 1971, I know the melodrama wasn't for you, but I agree with you with regards to it being average. It's not bad. It's not great. It's like a solid 6 out
Yeah.
of 10, right? It's competently made. It's thrilling. It's engaging, but it doesn't necessarily do anything new or exciting. But as you're watching the movie, I think you will be at the edge of your seat. It's whether or not you'll remember this as something remarkable at the end of it, which I don't think you will.
It's gonna be one of those films where you'll forget you've seen.
Yes. But that said, I think it is still a fun time at the cinema. I know I had fun while I was watching it. So,
Agreed, yeah.
a solid 6 out of 10 from us, I think, for Hijack 1971.
Can't disagree with you there.
Hijack 1971 is showing in Malaysian cinemas. You should go check it out. It's quite interesting. Let us know what you think once you've seen it. All of our social media feeds are Goggler MY. You can also email us on podcast@goggler.my or send us a WhatsApp on the Goggler hotline 012-524-5208. Thank you so much for listening. This is the Goggler Podcast.